In this video tutorial, we're going to be discussing how we edit or change the site information display, this pane that we see on our overview page. In a previous video or in another video, I did talk a bit about how we use the edit function here. So if you click on edit, you get your rich text editor. You can input information directly in this text box and make it appear by clicking update options on that site information display pane on the overview page. So it's just a matter of maybe editing information here, right? That's the simplest way to do it. However, it's a little tricky. If you edit information in that area, in that rich text editor, right? Sometimes when folks are making changes on the back end, on the registration side of your site, you can lose this information in this area if you're editing directly in that rich text editor. So it's probably not the ideal way to set it up. It doesn't happen often, but every once in a while when one of the office assistants or the registrar folks make some changes to your site, and I don't really know if it's a box they need to check or something that they need to save, but it has happened to me before where people have made changes to the banner side, the back end of a course, and then it resets this whole area here to the default. So then you lose everything, and all you'll see is the course name again. So there's another way that we can ensure that we don't lose that information. And we're actually going to make use of the rich text editor that we have in this edit function. So let me go ahead and click on edit, come back here. So in our, again, we're going to use our rich text editor to build or change or edit our overview page into something a little bit more substantial than just having the name here, because this area on the website is prime real estate, right? This is something that the student's going to see every time they get into your course, and having a big empty white space is probably not ideal, right? We want to give them a more inviting landing page when they get here. So how we edit this is pretty straightforward. You just come in this box and you can start typing information. Now, we're not going to talk a whole lot about ADA compliance in this institute, but I should mention some of the basic steps you can take. When we're in our rich text editor, one thing you might want to consider is how we use the various styles. So this is for machine readers or text readers, for students that are having a screen reader read the site to them. If we only use normal text from top to bottom, that means the student has to basically sit there and hear the first word to the last word. If we start incorporating our headings, then students can have a little more options in terms of how they navigate the site. So they can have the screen reader read all the heading 1s, read all the headings 2s, all the heading 3s. So that way they can kind of skip ahead to sections that, maybe they want to look at something specifically on the page. And if we start using these headings, it just makes that experience a lot better for someone who needs a screen reader. So in this case here, maybe we would select the heading 1. And let's just pretend we're doing an English class. So English 100. Spell it correctly, of course. Composition 1. And then maybe here where we're going to have some of our instructor information, we'll use a heading 2. And then we can include that information. And so maybe phone number, and if you want to add emails, and you can make things hyperlinked, right? So if we're going to put a hyperlink email address there, we would just use, because we have our rich text editor again, we click on that. And again, if we want to use an email as an example, so our display text would be our email address. Our link type would be email. And then we'll just punch that in, right? So our display text and our email address, and then we're going to click OK. And you'll notice now that it's hyperlinked, right? So we can keep going. We can add horizontal lines to break up sections. You can incorporate images, right? So by using the add image option, so our pop-up menu opens, we'll browse our server. In our previous assignment, I asked you guys to upload an image that you would use in your site, right? So we're gonna imagine that's what we're doing. So this site, we're gonna go into our resources folder. We're gonna select our images folder. And of course, I don't have a avatar in here, but let's just use this one here, Weekly Navigator. And then when we click on OK, so we've selected the image. We're back here, right? So we browse server, we selected the file, and again, for our ADA compliance things, we would probably want to have some sort of alternative text here. So if this was an avatar or a profile picture of some sort, that's maybe where I would just put my name, right? You can alter the width and height, and as long as the lock is like locked, it's just a matter of keeping that, and the lock allows you to keep the aspect ratio. So all you have to do is change either the width or the height, and you keep the original aspect ratio of the image. So let's just say we're going to shrink this down to 150 pixels wide, and you notice the height changes automatically because our lock is on. You can do things like left align, center align, or right align. So we'll go right align and then click on OK. So now you see we have that image. So you can incorporate text, you can incorporate hyperlinks, you can create or incorporate images into your site. You can incorporate your CK Awesome and a bunch of other things into this area. So let's go ahead and click Save just so we kind of see what it looks like on our overview. So here's our site information display area. And so all of that stuff that we added, we now see it here on the page. So imagine here, maybe you have a course description, required textbooks, and whatever else. If this was an online class, you should likely have a section explaining how a student should start interacting with the course. So maybe a start here information area or something like that. So again, you could do it this way, save it, and it looks a whole lot better than what you started off with. But again, because we want to avoid that problem of losing this in the future. So the easiest way to do this is, now that we've edited this area, let's go back. So I'm going to click on edit again. And here in our rich text editor, you notice we have this source button. So if I click on source, this basically gives me the HTML code for that overview page that we're looking at. So it's just a matter of selecting all of this and copying it. So right, I selected it. So Control A, Control C to copy. So now I'm going to click on cancel. Now I'm going to go to my resources folder. And you may not have an overview page folder. If you did, you could just go to it. But if not, maybe you're going to create an overview page folder. And then our actions drop down. We're going to create a text document. Actually, no, excuse me. I created an HTML page. So when our rich text editor opens again, we can click on source. And then we're going to paste our text. And then we're going to click continue. And so let's just call it, we'll just call it new page just for now, just so you kind of see what it's going to look like. And from our resources video, again, you can, right, when we upload or create a new HTML or text document, we can change some of the information. So all of these are fine. I'm just going to go ahead and click on finish. So now if I go to our overview page or our overview page folder, where is my, right there, new page.html. So now what I'm going to do, now that we have that HTML file saved, what I'm going to do is go to our actions drop down, and I'm going to go to edit details. And under our file details, I want to copy this URL. So I'm going to copy, right? So this web address URL, I'm going to copy the URL. So it's copied, right? And I'm going to click cancel. Now I'm going to go back to my overview tab. And then I'm going to click on edit. And right down here in this box, site info URL, you can actually redirect this pane to look at another website or another URL. So I'm going to point it. So we copied our share URL for our overview page, that new underscore page.html document. So I'm just going to paste that in there. And just so you see that it works, I'm going to erase all of this. I'm going to select all of that. I'm going to erase it, right? So this box is empty, right? This is empty. And let me just take this off for now, just so you see it, right? So if I edit or delete all of this information here and I don't have a redirect option, our site information defaults back to the default, which is the name of your site, right? So if I go back into edit, now I'm going to paste our link to our HTML document in our resource folder. All I do is hit update options, and now you see that that information is here. So one thing you have to be aware is if you are redirecting to another URL, you have to just remember that you're doing that, right? So if you go into, say you wanted to alter information here, you cannot no longer just click on edit and then change it here. What you would have to do is you would go back to your resource folder and then find your document. So it's in our overview page and it's called new page.html. In our actions dropdown, we're going to select on edit content, right? Not edit details. We're going to edit the actual content of this file. So we will select edit content. Our rich text editor opens up again. And now you can start incorporating information. So say we wanted to add, oh, excuse me, wrong one. Let me go down. Oops, what am I doing here? Let me put my horizontal line back. And then I'm going to go to another header too. So we'll do like required materials. And then you could have whatever, your textbook or whatever else you wanted to incorporate here, right? So we could just do that. And then we'll move our image back up. Oops, a little too far. So to move your image around, we're just using hover over and using this little cross icon. You can kind of move it around in your document on this page, right? So here we added required materials. Don't forget to click continue. So again, we're altering the actual file in our resources folder. And look at that, because we're redirecting to that file, all the changes we made there now appears in our site information display. So again, two ways of doing this. You can click on edit and then change your information right here in this rich text editor. Again, the downside of this is if at times people don't make change or they're making changes to your course on the back end, you could lose this information. One way to work around that too is once you create this overview page in this area, is just to save a copy of this file in your drive or something. And so you could always copy it and paste it back in here if you wanted to, right? But the ideal way is that we're actually using or redirecting this area to an HTML document that exists in our resources folder. And the reason is, regardless of what they do on the back end, it's very unlikely that they're going to delete that overview or that HTML document from your site. So one thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sharing a template HTML document with you guys that you could use as sort of a starting point. And basically what you're going to be getting is a template that looks like this. So it'll have the images for you. So anyway, I'm going to be sharing that to you guys um, in a separate manner, right? But that's how you do it. That's how you edit, either directly using this edit function directly in here, or you create your overview page. You get that source code. Then in your resources folder, you create an HTML document, and then you paste that source code in there, and then redirect this whole entire area to that HTML document again to kind of preserve any changes that you make. All right, so that's how you edit the worksite information display area um, in a course site.